as Pooh Shiesty and 8 others are facing federal charges right now, accused of robbing and kidnapping several people, including fellow rapper Gucci Mane. Now, according to court documents, the suspects lured the victims to a Dallas recording studio in January, claiming it was for a business deal. But once inside, investigators say they held the victims at gunpoint and robbed them. They also allegedly forced Gucci Mane to sign some paperwork releasing Pooh Shiesty from his contract with Gucci Mane's record label. The suspects were arrested this week. The FBI is now leading the investigation.
One of the biggest names in rap history, a man who turned his name into a full-blown empire, reportedly got robbed at gunpoint inside a recording studio by someone from his own circle.
9 individuals, including well-known musical artists, robbed at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas, Texas.
Sounds wild. But the story gets even messier when you look at what court papers allegedly lay out. Not some random late-night situation or a quick argument that got out of hand. It was described as a move that had planning, timing, and people all playing a part. That close to home, that is when it really hits different.
Nashville. These individuals who are charged and arrested include Lontrell Williams Jr., also known as Pooh Shiesty, Darian McDaniel, and Terrence Rogers has not been arrested yet, but will be soon.
It gets even darker because reports say Ty's dad allegedly helped put the play together, while Big 30 was supposedly posted at the door so nobody inside could make a move or slip out. The whole thing sounds less like chaos and more like a setup with roles assigned from the jump.
It alleges that on January 10th of this year, music industry professionals traveled to Dallas for a scheduled business meeting.
Its exact mission, which makes it look even more serious. After everything was done, the stolen Rolex watches were allegedly shown off on Instagram like it was some kind of victory lap. That is the part that really makes people stop and stare, because it turns a street story into something way louder and way more reckless. Before getting deeper into it, here's the real point. To the DOJ, this was allegedly a calculated and coordinated move, not just simple rap beef popping off in the heat of the moment.
Lontrell Williams Jr. arranged this meeting to discuss the terms of his recording contract with one of the victims.
In Gucci Mane's face, you have to trace every step that led here, because the feds reportedly believe they have serious evidence on everyone tied to it. That is where things really start to feel unreal. Let me lay it out clearly, because a lot of people do not realize how big this situation actually is. Whose real name is Roderick Davis, is not just another rapper in the mix. He's widely seen as one of the key figures behind trap music, someone who helped shape the entire sound and culture.
As alleged, once these 3 men were inside the recording studio, Williams Jr. and 8 co-conspirators, several of whom traveled from Memphis, Tennessee, executed a coordinated armed takeover.
This is a person who opened doors and created chances for countless artists coming up out of Atlanta. And that kind of influence does not happen by accident. Flock of Flame, Young Thug, Future, Migos, all of them have publicly pointed to Gucci Mane as part of their foundation and inspiration. That says a lot about the level he operates on. Built 1017 Records from nothing, turned it into a respected label, then went through his own legal troubles, served time, and still came back focused. He cleaned up his lifestyle, got in shape, got married, and rebuilt his brand into something even stronger than before. That kind of comeback alone would be enough to define a legacy. But his story did not stop there. That second chapter is exactly where Pooh Shiesty enters the scene. In 2020, Gucci Mane was actively searching for new talent to bring fresh energy into 1017. He was looking for something raw and real, not overly polished. When he came across a young artist from Memphis, Rel Williams Jr., known as Pooh Shiesty, it immediately caught his attention. He had been moving on his own, no major backing, no big industry push, just building momentum off his sound, his presence, and strong support online in a crowded space, and it lined him up for a major opportunity.
As alleged, Williams Jr. produced an AK-style pistol, first one of the victims to sign a release recording contract at gunpoint. The remaining played firearms, jewelry, cash, and other high-value items. One of the victims was actually choked by one of the defendants to the point of near unconsciousness.
But it was real, it was catchy, and Gucci Mane saw the potential right away. So in April 2020, Gucci Mane officially signed Pooh Shiesty to 1017 Records in a joint deal with Atlantic Records. Artists getting a shot pushed things way past the normal come-up into something that had people seriously paying attention. Within just 6 months of signing, Pooh Shiesty was already climbing the charts in a big way. Think about that for a second. November 2020, he drops Back in Blood featuring Lil Durk, and it shoots up to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. That track was everywhere, online, in cars, in clubs, all over the place. Then he jumps on Spot 'em Got 'em's Beatbox, and that track peaks at number 12. 2 top 15 records, back to back, all within his first year under a major label. That kind of momentum is not normal. That is breakout star energy moving at full speed.
Pooh Shiesty and Big 30 will now be facing up to life in prison if they are convicted for the kidnapping and robbery of Gucci Mane. Now, more information has come out, but the craziest thing is if they really did this to get Pooh Shiesty out of his contract, it did not work because he is legally still in that contract. Now, y'all, they are saying that Big 30 was one of the 8 people that was arrested on yesterday. There is still one suspect that they are looking for with the initials of TR. And when it comes to the kidnapping charge, the reason why they have that charge is because allegedly they had weapons drawn on people and Big 30 was buried.
Then February 2021 hits, and he drops his debut project, Shiesty Season, which lands at number 3 on the Billboard 200. That is a massive debut, especially for a young artist from Memphis who just a year before did not have major label backing. The jump from independent grind to top-tier charts happened fast, and it showed just how strong his buzz had become. Moments like that can change everything for an artist overnight. So when people ask if Gucci Mane would want to keep someone like that locked into his roster, it is not hard to understand why. From a business perspective, that level of success makes an artist extremely valuable. But there's another layer to this story that matters just as much. Pooh Shiesty did not come into 1017 alone. He also brought his cousin, Big Scar, whose real name is Alexander Woods, another Memphis rapper with his own story. He had been grinding through real-life struggles and even survived a serious car accident at 16 that left visible scars. That background added another dimension to the circle forming around 1017, and it started to shape everything that followed. He had already survived something serious before all of this. In 2020, Big Scar was shot in the hip, and the bullet reportedly traveled up toward his chest. Doctors had to perform emergency surgery to save his life, opening him up just to keep him breathing.
Gucci walk in the damn studio, bro, with his people, to Draco's. The fucking footage is going to show.
That alone shows the kind of situations he had already faced before music really took off. Despite all that, he kept pushing, and Pooh Shiesty made sure his music got in front of Gucci Mane. Once Gucci heard it, he moved fast and signed Big Scar without hesitation. Now you have Pooh Shiesty bringing his cousin into the spotlight, and suddenly their Memphis circle has a real platform. Opportunities were opening up, and Gucci Mane was right at the center of it all, helping turn their momentum into something bigger. But here's where things start to shift, because the same system that gave them that shot also came with serious control. Business deals are not always simple, and behind the scenes, those contract terms can carry weight that artists feel later on. Right in the middle of all that success, while Back in Blood was still climbing and getting major attention, things reportedly started going left on the legal side. In October 2020, Pooh Shiesty and 2 other men were accused of driving to a hotel in Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, where they planned to purchase marijuana and high-end sneakers. According to federal prosecutors, the situation allegedly turned violent, with both men being shot before the group left with the items. That moment added a heavy layer to everything, shifting the story from fast success to serious legal trouble almost overnight.
Pooh Shiesty had one on him. Big 30 had one on him. Only person who really gonna escape from this is the Pops. The Pops did not want none of this to go on. Nigga like this, bruh. Gucci look at the dad like...
Surveillance cameras reportedly captured the entire situation, and one detail that stood out was a lime green McLaren seen leaving the scene. That image alone made the case feel even bigger because it connected a high-profile lifestyle to a serious accusation. Then, just months later, over Memorial Day weekend in 2021, another incident allegedly took place at the King of Diamonds strip club in Miami. Reports claim a security guard was shot in the leg during a dispute over money. Now you are looking at multiple open felony cases in Florida, all while his name is still rising in the music world. By July 2021, things escalated even further when a federal indictment came into play. The charges included conspiracy to possess firearms in furtherance of violent acts and drug trafficking, which are extremely serious allegations. At that point, the possibility of a life sentence was hanging over a 21-year-old artist who had just landed major chart success. That contrast alone made the situation feel intense because the highs and lows were happening at the same time. Then, in January 2022, he accepted a plea deal and pleaded guilty to one count of conspiracy to possess firearms. The outcome was a 63-month federal prison sentence. He entered prison at just 22 years old, with his career suddenly paused. Fans were left waiting, momentum slowed down, and the business side did not stop moving. His contract with 1017 was still active, which meant the structure around his music and earnings remained in place even while he was behind bars. That's where it really makes you think, because prison does not freeze contracts. He could not record freely, perform, or build income the same way, yet the agreements tied to his work were still there. While he was serving time, everything outside kept moving, and then something happened that hit even closer to home. December 22, 2022, Big Scar, his cousin, and someone he personally helped bring into 1017, passed away from a drug overdose at his girlfriend's home in Memphis. After surviving multiple life-threatening situations before, that loss added a heavy and emotional turn to an already complicated story. He was only 22 years old when all of this was happening, and at the same time, Pooh Shiesty was sitting in federal prison, unable to step outside, unable to be there for his family, and unable to even attend the funeral. Imagine getting that kind of news while locked behind bars, with no way to show up or say goodbye in person. That kind of loss hits heavy, and he had to deal with it from a distance, while the internet started turning the situation into something even bigger. Then the story coming out of Memphis started spreading fast, and it brought serious attention toward Gucci Mane. Big Scar's brother, Quez Ruthless, went live on Instagram and made claims that quickly went viral. He said Gucci had promised to help cover funeral costs, but then allegedly stopped responding to the family. According to what was said on that live, when they tried to follow up, they were told Gucci could not pay because of personal reasons tied to timing. That claim alone had people reacting strongly online because it added tension to an already emotional situation. But what really stood out in the streets was another claim from that same live. Quez said Gucci Mane allegedly asked for the return of the 1017 chain that had been given to Big Scar when he was signed. The timing of that request is what made people talk, because it was said to have come right after his passing. Big Scar's sister, Alexandra, also spoke on social media and confirmed that the request for the chains had been made, while saying the family intended to keep them. That moment turned the conversation from sadness to controversy very quickly.
The pops just head down. You can't tell your son nothing right now. Your son the number one right now. You gonna sign this? Sign the damn papers. And we need that. Wedding ring. Watch. Come up out that.
At the same time, Gucci Mane's team pushed back on parts of the story. His wife shared proof showing that $20,000 had been paid toward funeral expenses, while reports suggested the total cost was around $60,000. Even with that response, the discussion about the chain and everything surrounding it kept circulating. Back in Memphis, and even inside a prison cell where Pooh Shiesty was sitting, this situation carried weight, leaving a lot to process with no easy way to respond. That is his cousin, his own blood, someone he personally stood behind and helped bring into the spotlight. And during the same week of that loss, the main conversations being pushed online were reportedly about jewelry and funeral cost disagreements. That kind of situation can shift how someone feels in a serious way. If there were already questions or frustrations about business deals, hearing about family being caught in controversy like that can change how a person looks at everything around them. When emotions and business start mixing like that, it can create tension that does not just disappear. It can stay in the back of someone's mind, especially when they do not have the space to address it right away. Being away while all of this unfolds only adds more pressure because everything is happening without you being able to step in or speak directly on it. Now fast forward to October 6, 2025. Pooh Shiesty is released from federal prison after serving over 3 years. At 25 years old, he steps back out into a world that kept moving while he was gone, but his name still holds weight. He was placed into a residential re-entry program in Dallas, Texas, with strict conditions. An ankle monitor, home detention rules, and limited freedom of movement all come into play. He cannot leave without approval, cannot have a firearm, and cannot afford any mistakes. Any violation could send him right back to prison to finish his sentence plus additional time. That pressure is real, especially for someone trying to rebuild momentum. Then in December 2025, he drops FDO, meaning First Day Out, and it lands at number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100. Even after everything, his return still made noise, showing that people were paying attention the moment he stepped back into the game. Are we really surprised? His very first song back hits the charts right away, which shows the fan base never disappeared. The support was still there, and the momentum picked right back up like he never left. But here's where the situation starts to feel a lot more intense. Even with that success, even with clear proof that he could still perform at a high level, he was reportedly still locked into his 10-17 deal. And that is where frustration can start to build. According to what has been laid out, Pooh Shiesty allegedly wanted out of that contract in a serious way. Think about everything stacked behind that feeling. Years spent in prison, being tied to an agreement made at a much younger age, and watching family drama unfold connected to the same label. Then coming home and seeing that the business structure had not changed, with Gucci Mane still holding a strong position in the deal. That kind of pressure can shift how someone looks at their situation completely. He reportedly wanted freedom, and investigators claim he may have tried to take matters into his own hands. That is the point where the story moves beyond music and into something much more serious. According to the DOJ, this situation allegedly turned into a federal kidnapping case, and it did not stop with just one person being involved. Reports claim his father, Trail Williams Sr., was also allegedly part of the plan from early on. He is known for founding Mob Ties Records in Memphis and being around the music scene for years. Federal prosecutors allege that he helped organize parts of the operation, including renting the vehicle that was used while moving around Dallas. The idea of a father and son both being tied to the same alleged plan made the situation even more shocking to many people following the case. Then there's the bigger picture involving multiple individuals. Authorities point to cell phone records and license plate reader data that reportedly show several people traveling together from Memphis to Dallas in the days leading up to January 10th. That detail suggests coordination and planning, adding another layer to what investigators believe was not random but organized ahead of time. These people did not just randomly show up. This was described as organized movement, coordinated travel, and a group coming together with a specific purpose. Everything about it points to planning ahead, not something thrown together at the last minute. When you see multiple people moving across states in sync, it starts to look a lot more deliberate than spontaneous. Then you have Big 30, whose real name is Rodney Lamont Wright Jr., a longtime friend of Pooh Shiesty from Memphis. They grew up around the same environment, building a bond that runs deep. In this industry, those kinds of connections matter, and loyalty can carry a lot of weight. But here's what makes his involvement stand out. Big 30 is signed to Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang, not directly tied to Gucci Mane's 1017 label. There's no direct contract issue tying him to Gucci Mane, no known dispute, nothing personal pushing him into this situation. That's why his presence raises questions, because it suggests he showed up out of loyalty alone. A person with his own career path, his own momentum, stepping into something that doesn't directly involve his business. And that kind of loyalty can come with serious consequences, especially when situations escalate beyond control. Being connected, even indirectly, can pull someone into outcomes they never expected. Now look at the full picture coming together. Reports describe a setup where different roles were allegedly in play. A father figure tied to logistics, individuals traveling in from Memphis, and close associates ready to move when needed. At the same time, Pooh Shiesty was under strict conditions, wearing an ankle monitor, limited by home detention rules, and not supposed to leave freely or be around weapons. Yet all of this was building toward a single moment. January 10th, 2026 in Dallas, Texas, at a recording studio. What was presented as a normal business meeting was set in motion. Gucci Mane and two other music professionals reportedly traveled there expecting a discussion about contract terms. It was framed as a legitimate sit-down, something routine in the industry. The meeting itself was arranged by Pooh Shiesty, positioned as a conversation about his deal. But according to investigators, there was much more happening behind the scenes than anyone walking in may have realized. What happened next is where everything reportedly reached its peak. According to federal authorities, the studio session did not unfold like a normal business meeting at all. What was supposed to be a calm conversation about contract terms allegedly turned into a controlled, intense situation within moments. Investigators claim that once everyone was inside, the atmosphere shifted fast, and it became clear this was not just about bot cheat or negotiation anymore. Reports say individuals were positioned in a way that limited movement, with at least one person near the exit, making it difficult for anyone to leave freely. That detail alone adds a layer of pressure to the entire situation. Then, according to what has been presented, demands were allegedly made involving valuables, including jewelry and personal items. The setting, a music studio meant for creativity and business, suddenly became the center of something much more serious. Authorities also point to evidence suggesting that items taken during the incident later appeared online, which only intensified the case. That move, if true, turned a private situation into something public, drawing even more attention. Investigators believe digital trails, combined with witness statements, helped piece together what they say happened inside that room. When actions spill from real life onto social media, it can amplify everything and bring even more scrutiny. Now, the legal side is where things get even heavier. Federal prosecutors are treating this as a highly organized act, not something accidental or misunderstood. With multiple people allegedly involved, coordinated travel, and supporting evidence, the case has been built to show intent and planning. What started as a music industry dispute has now crossed fully into the legal system, with serious consequences on the line for everyone connected to it. Gucci Mane reportedly arrived expecting a normal, professional meeting, even bringing off-duty police officers as security. Everything about it looked official and above board on the surface, just another business discussion in the music industry. But according to federal prosecutors, what happened next was described in a very different way. They called it an armed takeover, and that wording alone shows how serious they believed the situation was. Investigators allege that Pooh Shiesty and multiple others moved in quickly once everyone was inside. According to the DOJ, he allegedly pulled out an AK-style pistol and pointed it at one of the individuals present. Authorities claim that person was then forced to sign documents related to a release from a recording contract under threat. That is what prosecutors say this entire situation was centered around, not a negotiation, but an attempt to secure freedom from a deal through intimidation rather than legal process. While that was happening, officials say others in the group were also taking action around the room. Weapons were allegedly drawn on additional individuals, and items like Rolex watches, jewelry, and cash were taken. One person, according to the DOJ, was reportedly choked to the point of nearly losing consciousness. Investigators say they have documented injuries, including marks on the wrist and neck, which they are using as part of the case. Then there is the role of Big 30, which prosecutors also highlighted. They allege he remained positioned at the door, physically blocking it so no one inside could leave or call for help. Under federal law, that kind of involvement can carry serious consequences because it ties a person to everything that happens during the incident. According to authorities, that detail connects him directly to the overall case, making the situation even more intense for everyone involved. And do not forget about those off-duty police officers Gucci Mane brought as security. According to reports, they were present the entire time, meaning trained law enforcement witnessed what allegedly happened from start to finish. That is not just a single version of events from one person. Those are accounts coming from individuals with professional experience. Their observations are now part of what prosecutors are using as formal testimony, which adds serious weight to the case. But it doesn't stop there, because investigators say the evidence goes even deeper. One of the most talked about details is the ankle monitor Pooh Shiesty was required to wear as part of his home detention. Authorities claim that device placed him directly at the studio during the time of the alleged incident. The same monitor meant to track his compliance reportedly became a key piece of evidence, showing both his location and a violation of his release conditions. That detail alone stands out because it connects technology directly to the timeline. Instead of relying only on statements, prosecutors point to digital tracking that backs up their claims. And when you combine that with other forms of data, the picture they are building becomes even more detailed. Then there are the records tied to travel and movement. Cell phone data and license plate reader systems reportedly show multiple individuals making the trip from Memphis to Dallas in the days leading up to the incident. On top of that, rental records allegedly indicate that Trail Williams Sr. secured the vehicle used during that time. When all of these pieces are put together, investigators argue it shows coordination, planning, and a clear path leading right up to that moment. The evidence trail did not stop at just one location. It kept building from multiple angles. Investigators say surveillance cameras picked up activity not only at the studio, but also at nearby locations like an office supply store and a hotel where several of the defendants were reportedly staying. That kind of footage helps map out movements before and after the incident, adding more detail to the overall timeline authorities are putting together. Then it gets even more serious when forensic evidence comes into play. According to reports, latent fingerprints recovered from the scene were matched to 2 individuals connected to the case. That takes things beyond just claims and into physical evidence that prosecutors can present. When you combine that with everything else, it starts to form a much tighter narrative around what allegedly happened. But one of the most shocking parts comes from what happened after the incident. Authorities say that within hours, some suspects were already posting on social media with items believed to be taken during the robbery. Reports mentioned DeMarcus Glover allegedly sharing images wearing jewelry linked to the case, while Terrence Rogers reportedly posted a video showing a Rolex thought to belong to one of the victims. That kind of move brings instant attention and creates a digital trail that is hard to ignore. Then there's the travel back out of Dallas, which investigators also tracked. Records show multiple individuals allegedly took a Greyhound bus from Dallas back to Memphis the very next day. Those travel logs are now part of the evidence being reviewed. And by April 1, 2026, federal authorities moved in, with the FBI and DOJ coordinating arrests across multiple locations, including a raid at a residence tied to the Williams family in Cordova, Tennessee. Trail Williams Sr. was taken into custody at the family home, identified by prosecutors as a key figure in the alleged plan. The arrest happening right there added another layer to the case because it tied everything back to a central location. At the same time, Pooh Shiesty was arrested in Dallas, the exact city where he had been placed to complete his residential re-entry program. He was supposed to be easing back into normal life, but instead, that same location became the place where everything caught up with him. His ankle monitor had reportedly been tracking his movements the entire time, which investigators are now using as part of their case. That detail connects his presence directly to the timeline authorities have laid out. Then you have Big 30 also taken into custody, along with several others across different cities. Arrests were carried out in Dallas, Memphis, and Nashville, showing how wide the situation had spread. In total, 8 out of 9 individuals were arrested within a single day. The only one still being sought at the time was Terrence Rogers. That kind of coordinated takedown shows how seriously federal authorities were treating the case. When multiple agencies move at once like that, it usually means they believe they have strong evidence lined up. Now the charges are where things become extremely heavy. Kidnapping, armed robbery, conspiracy, each one carrying severe penalties. Prosecutors have stated that every person involved could be facing life in prison if convicted. For Pooh Shiesty, that possibility hits even harder because he had previously avoided a life sentence by taking a plea deal in an earlier firearms case. Now, at just 26 years old and only months after being released, he is once again facing the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars, as officials emphasized during their press conference. And that is where everything comes full circle in the most intense way. What started as a fast rise in the music industry, major chart success, and a powerful cosign turned into a situation now sitting in the hands of federal prosecutors. The same momentum that once had people celebrating is now being examined piece by piece in a courtroom setting where every detail matters and every action is questioned. At the center of it all is a bigger conversation about choices, pressure, and how quickly things can shift. One moment you are building a name, dropping hits and gaining recognition, and the next, everything is put on pause because of legal issues. The contrast is hard to ignore. Success in the spotlight can come with complicated situations behind the scenes, and when those situations escalate, the consequences can be serious and long-lasting. This case also highlights how much evidence can shape the outcome. From surveillance footage to digital tracking, witness accounts, and social media activity, investigators are piecing together a timeline they believe tells the full story. It's not just about what allegedly happened in one moment, but everything leading up to it and everything that followed. When all those elements come together, it creates a situation that is difficult to walk away from. Now everything moves forward through the legal system. Charges have been filed, arrests have been made, and the focus shifts to what can be proven in court. For everyone involved, the stakes are as high as it gets. What happens next will ultimately be decided through that process, and it will determine how this entire story is remembered moving forward. This case is being presented by authorities as a clear warning about what can happen when situations turn toward violence and intimidation. The message coming from officials is direct. Actions like this can lead to serious consequences that change lives completely. What started as a business relationship in the music world has now turned into a legal battle with extremely high stakes, and that shift alone says a lot about how fast things can escalate. And when you look at the full story being told, the contrast is hard to ignore. Gucci Mane gave Pooh Shiesty a major opportunity, from a record deal with Atlantic Records Distribution to a platform that helped take him from local momentum in Memphis to a #3 spot on the Billboard 200 in under a year. That kind of rise does not happen often, and it shows how quickly things were moving at one point. He even extended that opportunity to Pooh Shiesty's cousin, helping bring more people from his circle into the spotlight. But according to what federal prosecutors allege, frustration over contract terms may have played a role in what happened next. Investigators claim the response was not handled through business channels, but instead escalated into something far more serious, involving multiple people and coordinated actions. The details being presented are what make this situation stand out. Authorities describe a scenario involving travel across states, involvement of close associates, and decisions that carried major risks. Even individuals with their own careers and paths like Big 30 were allegedly pulled into the situation. Now everything that once looked like success and opportunity is being weighed against the consequences outlined in this case, showing just how quickly the direction of a story can change. And because he showed up for someone he considered family, he is now facing the possibility of life in federal prison. That is the kind of outcome that changes everything, Not just for one person, but for everyone connected to the situation. The name Shiesty was not random either. It came from someone close to him who believed it matched how he moved and handled things. That identity followed him all the way from the streets into the spotlight, and now into a case that could define the rest of his life. At the same time, you have Gucci Mane, someone widely respected for his experience in both music and real-life situations, who took a chance and put that opportunity on the table. He helped build a path, opened doors, and placed major trust in someone he believed in. When you step back and look at everything from start to finish, it really shows how high the stakes were on both sides and how quickly things can turn when decisions go left. Some lessons don't just cost money, they can cost freedom, reputation, and entire futures. That's the real takeaway sitting underneath all of this. Every move carries weight, and in situations like this, the consequences do not come small. If you learned something new from this breakdown, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear the full story. Drop a comment and let me know what you think about everything that went down, because this one really got people talking.